In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you a simple no-fluff guide to Make.com. Make is a no-code or very minimal code platform that allows you to build automated workflows by connecting together different apps and tools and services. You can use it to automate repetitive tasks in your business, pass data between apps and tools, or trigger actions in one app based on activities in another. Think like somebody submits a Google form to you, and when they click submit, that triggers a whole automation. If you want to simplify and make your business more efficient by connecting all the different tools in your tech stack, Make can do all that. Now, before I take you inside of Make, the first thing that I recommend that you do before building any automation is to actually think through, it sounds so obvious, right? But think through exactly what you want to build. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Rick Mulready, and for the past decade, I've been running a 7-figure online business, coaching other online businesses. And today, I help online businesses use AI to become more efficient, streamline your business, and also in the process become a lot more profitable. Now, as I mentioned just a moment ago, I highly recommend that you, before building anything in Make.com, that you draw out the automation that you want to create. Really think through it first. Start with the end in mind. What is the end goal that you want to create with this automation? I like to draw it out. Sometimes I'll draw it out on my iPad. You can draw it out in your notebook. I like to also use a tool called Whimsical or Miro. This is going to make building the actual automation in Make so much easier. All right, here we are inside of Make. This is the main dashboard area. It starts you off with the organization tab. Now, this is a test account that I have. I'm not going to take you through each of the tabs along the top here, but suffice to say, these are more like administrative tabs. The one thing that you will want to check out if you do not currently have a Make subscription is the different plans that they have. Highly recommend that you do monthly, not yearly. And that goes for any AI tool out there. Do the monthly, even though the yearly has some savings there. Go with the monthly. I also recommend doing the Pro plan, and that's going to be more than sufficient for what you want to do, for most of you want to do in your business using these automations. Then the next tab here is your team. So if you want to have people on your team who are going to be in your Make account, you're going to want to add them to the team area here. You can see also on the organization dashboard here, by the way, talks about your current plan, how many operations that you have, and also that you've used, the number of operations here, and then active scenarios down here at the bottom. Scenarios is a key term in Make.com. Scenario is basically the automation, okay? And you'll see that here in the left-hand column, the next one that you can go down to, and you're gonna see all the scenarios here. We're gonna build an actual scenario here in just a second. But before we do, I wanna continue taking you through this left-hand column here and show you sort of like what I consider important and what I consider not so important. Again, I wanna give you the simple no-fluff guide to getting automations going inside of Make. Below scenarios, you have templates. These are exactly what they sound like. There's, I want to say, hundreds of templates that you can check out here, pre-built scenarios that you can go into. I highly recommend, even if it's not something that you're going to use, I highly recommend clicking into a few of these just to kind of see how they work. But you can they have a good search functionality here. You can search by, what is the automation that you want to do, by tool, etc. I mean, hundreds of templates here in the templates section. The connections area here is just basically, these are all the tools and apps that you are using in your scenarios, in your automations. They're all listed out here. If you need to reauthorize or verify any of the connections, you can just come over here to this connections tab. They're all going to be listed out right here. Any webhooks that you are using in any of your scenarios, and I'll explain webhooks here in just a minute, but they're going to be listed all out here. So if you need to go reference a specific webhook for any reason, you can come in over to the webhooks tab. Just what it says here, if you want to manage public or private keys easily, as you can see here, I don't use it. I don't need to, I don't find the need to do that. Then you can see devices here. So this basically allows you to download the Make app to your phone. I don't do that because I want to be building scenarios and such on my computer here. Data stores and data structures. Data stores basically allows you to create a database of information right here within Make. Again, you can see here, I don't use this. I don't find the need to do that. I use other databases, and then also data structures, a bit more advanced, again, I don't need to be using it for what I'm building in my business. The custom apps, you can build a custom app right here inside of Make. Again, as you can see, it is a little bit more advanced. I'm not doing custom apps in here. Don't find the need to. All right, let's go back up to the scenario section. As I mentioned earlier, scenarios are the automations. This is your hub, basically building out your automations here inside of Make. So I'm going to go to the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to click on New Scenario. So this big circle here with the plus, you can adjust the size, make it smaller. You can drag it around here. But this is each time you see one of these circles, this is what they call a module here inside of Make. And the apps, I mean, they have thousands of apps that you can choose from. Now, this first module, as you're building out your scenario, this is going to be your trigger, meaning the whole automation gets kicked off by whatever's in this module right here. So let's start building a super simple automation here, and I'll explain as we go through here the finer points of likely the things that you'll be using most inside of Make here. So I'm going to click on Gmail. I'm going to type in Gmail, and let's just say that I want to build an automation when I get an email in a specific folder in my Gmail. I have Claude write in email response. So I wanted to read the email that came in, write an email response, and then send that email back to Gmail in my draft folder for me to review before sending out. Okay, so super simple. This is going to be a 3-step automation. So I'm going to click on Watch Emails. So from here, you have your connections at the top. This is where you are connecting the tools and apps that are in Make to your actual account. So for example, for my Gmail account, I need to connect it to my Google account. So if you have not set this up already, and this is going to be for any module or any tool that you're using for the first time, you're going to want to go to the add here. You're going to want to give your connection a name and click on sign in. In this case here, sign in with Google, and I'll walk you through the steps. Super, super easy. You'll want to do this with each of the modules that you are adding. And in a second, I'll show you the Anthropic module for Claude. And in the Anthropic module, you will have to add your Anthropic API key. So you want to get your API key first. I'll show you that here in just a second. And now that I've made that connection, now I can start to build out the actual automation of what I want it to do. So remember, the trigger in this whole automation is when a new email comes in to Gmail. And I want to specify when it comes into a specific folder. So I'm going to click right here in the folder field. Takes a second to load. And I'm going to click AI newsletters. So let's just say that I click AI newsletters. The filter type is a simple filter. So if you do the little drop down, you have simple filter and Gmail filter. I'm going to keep that. And I'm going to say the criteria is all emails. So all emails coming into the AI newsletter folder that I have in Gmail. I'm going to keep this to no maximum number of results. Basically, it's all that's saying is one email at a time. I'm going to click OK. And this is another key thing that you're really going to want to understand when you start building out automations in Make. So you're basically saying choose where you want this to start. So you're building a new automation. Do you want it to start from now on? So any new email that comes into your Gmail folder that we just designated, emails after a specific date, all emails, or select the first email that you want to start with. So if I click on select the first email, it's going to load the emails in that folder that are currently in there. And then I can select that specific email and go from there with the automation. But I'm just going to keep from now on. I'm going to click OK. So here's my new module. This is an action module because I want an action taken based on this first module, i.e. there's a new email that comes into Gmail, and I want the Claude AI model to grab the email that came in into Gmail in that folder and then analyze it, read it, and write a response. So I'm going to choose the create a prompt option. So as you can see here, when we made that choice, new fields pop up here within the Anthropic module. So we have to set this up. In this case here, we can choose whatever Claude module we want. I'm going to choose the 3.5 sonnet. I'm just going to choose 1,000 tokens. Then this is where I would want to write the prompt for Claude to read the email and then write a response to it. And what I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to be choosing the user role. You can see right here, and then click on add content. The type is going to be text. And so in the text field, you can see all the different mapping options, as Make calls it, right here within the pop-up box. So I would write my prompt. I would say, this is a prompt that I want you to, this is not an actual prompt, to analyze. And so now this is where you're connecting the Anthropic module with the Gmail module in a sense of the email. You're grabbing the email from the first module and then you're connecting it over here. You're mapping it to the next module here. So then down here in the text field, you see that when I click in the text field, you get this box that pops up. These are all the different mapping options. And mapping is one of the key functions and core functions of Make.com, because this is what is essentially connecting the Anthropic response to the previous module here of Gmail. And so I can just say, I'm not going to write the whole prompt right now. I want you to read and analyze. So this is where I need to tell it, I need to map it to the Gmail module. So this is where I come over here into the red boxes here, and I want to map this module to the Gmail module. So I want you to read and analyze. So this is where I'm telling it, I want you to read the email, the text of the email, the body copy of the email. So you can see right here, it says text content. And when I mouse over it, you can see that the Gmail module is pulsing. So I'm going to click that. And then now I can continue with my prompt. But now the prompt contains and is directly related to the email content in the previous module, okay? So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on OK. And so cool, now we have two modules. When a new email comes into the first module, then the second module here, the action module, is grabbing that email, reading it, and writing a response. The third step in this is I wanna add one more module where it sends that email response that Claude wrote and puts it into my drafts folder in Gmail. So I'm going to click on the plus button again. I'm going to go back to the Gmail option. Now the option here is the action is create a draft. By the way, whenever you choose a module, you can scroll through and see the different options that can be accomplished within the Make.com module here. So I'm going to click on create a draft. And again, because I chose create a draft, I get some new fields here that I have to put some information in. So basically the folder, click here to choose folder. Well, I want to send this email that Claude wrote into my drafts folder in Gmail. So I'm just going to look for the drafts folder. Here's the drafts folder. So now it's going to send this email into my drafts folder. The to recipient is basically going to be in response to the person that sent it. So now I can come over here. By the way, notice I clicked in this box here and I have another mapping opportunity because I have two modules before this module. I have the Anthropic module and then the first Gmail module. So I want to reply to the email address of the sender. So I'm going to click on sender email address. Cool. Subject line, I would probably just take the exact subject line that was to the email that was sent and probably put in RE and then the subject line that was previously sent. Now, the content of the email is going to be from the previous module that Claude wrote, right? So in this case here, we want the text response that Claude wrote, because again, Claude wrote the email response, so that is the text response. So again, I'm mapping this module to the previous module in my scenario here, or my automation. Then I can click OK. So this is the entire automation now. The next thing you do want to make sure that you do is you want to be testing your automation, okay? First of all, also make sure you click save and click save frequently as you're building. Another key thing to know about Make is you can always, let's just say that you mess or come in here and your automation's all messed up for whatever reason. You can come down here to the three little buttons here and click on previous versions. So that's why it's a very smart thing to do to keep saving your work in here, because if something gets messed up, you can always go back to a previous version that ran correctly. Now, as I want to begin to test this automation that I created, what I want to do here is I want to right click here and I want to do run this module only. So this module ran and it gave me an error message, not necessarily an error message, but it didn't return any new data because if you remember, I chose the choose where to start settings and start from now on. So there was nothing in there for this to run on. So I was like, okay, let's correct this. Select the first email. So I'm basically telling it what email I want it to do it with. I'm going to click on just any random email here. And now I can start this again and say, okay, run this module only. I'm starting a test. Now it worked. These are called bundles that Make calls it. And you can go through here wherever it says like a little plus, and you can look at the email in this example here that it pulled. So this is telling me that everything ran correctly. And you can go through, right click, and do run this module only to test the individual models. Now, quick note here, when you do these things and you click run once, for example, so let's just say I've gone through here and tested each individual model, right? Now I want to run the entire automation through once to test everything to make sure that it is working. That's where this run once option. So after you click the run once and it runs through the automation, you're going to know right off the bat whether the automation worked correctly or not. And I didn't get this little one bubble up here on the Anthropic module. So I was like, wait, why did that happen? So I clicked on run this module only again, and I dug down into the content, and I remembered that I didn't actually give it a prompt. All I said was, I want you to read and analyze the text content. So that's exactly what it did. By the way, I forgot to mention this on the Anthropic module, on the OpenAI module with ChatGPT, you want to make sure that you connect make.com with an API key from the respective AI platform. So for example, here in Claude, you'd go over to Anthropic, grab your API key, put an API key right in here, click on save, and now make.com is connected with Anthropic. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to show you down here is your log. So this is going to tell you the actions that are being taken for the scenario when you run the scenario. So it's going to tell you like the request was accepted, or requesting execution, it was accepted, waiting for the server. Takes you through step by step. It's also going to show you, this is where it's going to show you an error. So if you get an error message, it will usually give you some insight into where the error is. And I'll show you here in just a second what to do if you're like, I have no idea what that error message means. But before I do that, one thing I want to make sure that you understand is the schedule setting. So down here, this is where you set how often that you want the automation to run. So for example, if you want it to run every day, days of the week, regular intervals. In this example here, I would probably want it to run once a day or twice a day. So I could just say every day, and then I can make a time or something like that. But that's the schedule setting is really, really important. Down here, again, you want to click on save. The other thing too is that I feel like is important is if you go like this and you want to click the auto align, it's going to just do exactly that, auto align. If you click on the explain flow button down here, it's going to walk you through kind of like bouncing. It's going to tell you what module is starting as a trigger, and then so on, and then so on. I do find this option over here, by the way, this AI beta, pretty helpful actually. So if you do get an error message, for example, so you can click on this help with why did I get this error? And you can put it right into the box here, and Make's AI assistant will usually do a pretty good job of helping you resolve that issue. Okay, a few more things I want to share with you before we wrap up here. You can see the little wrench in between each of the modules here. These are just filters. So you can, or these are the menu, you can set up a filter, I should say. So you can put in a condition here. You can say, for example, the sender name. Let's just say that you only want to do this automation for specific emails from specific people. Okay. Well, that's where you can go in here and you can say, you know, text operator basically equal to, and then you can put the subject line or the recipient or whatever it is here. Essentially, you're setting up filters and rules for when this automation should take a specific action. I don't use a ton of rules in my automations. Some of them I do, but for the most part, I don't necessarily need to set up a lot of filters. Again, it is something that you should be aware of, that you can do this. And if it makes sense, obviously go for it. But I don't really use them a ton in the automations that I'm building. Okay, the next thing I want to share with you is something called a router. So let's just say that I wanted the result of this prompt here to go to, I don't know, Gmail draft and to Slack. So how do we make that happen? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click, I'm going to unlink these two, move it down here, and I'm going to add in a router. So a router basically is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to route information from the previous module to however many places that you want it to go. So for example, as I mentioned, if I want it to go to Gmail and I want it to go to Slack, so I can just click on this and I can click on Slack and I can say, oh, I want to create a message. And then again, up at the top here, you're going to want to make sure you connect Make to Slack and then go through the different fields here. I'm not going to do that right now. I just want to show you this router option. And let's just say I wanted to add another place for where I want the results of that email response to go. I can just click on the plus button, and now I can add a whole other route here, as I like to call it, to the automation. The last thing you really need to be aware of, and it's so powerful here in Make, is what they call a webhook. So I'm just going to create one here. I'm just going to right click in the white space, click add a module, click on the plus, and then I'm going to click on the search field. I'm going to type in webhook, and I'm going to do a custom webhook. What a webhook is it basically allows you to connect tools that aren't necessarily natively connected together, so that you can send information and data from one app to, or tool to, another tool. So in this case here, we would be bringing data in from another tool outside of Make into Make, and the webhook is generally kicking off an automation. So just as an example, if I have a form in Airtable and I want somebody to fill out that form, and the information that is filled out in that form is then click submitted, well, I can have that information in the submission of that form kick off a whole automation. And when you choose a webhook here, I say choose a webhook. You will have to do that. If you do this for the first time, click on add and it'll walk you through the steps. But this URL here is what I would be putting into the other tool that I'm using. So in that Airtable form example, it would be going over into Airtable. So you would just copy that link over it into Airtable, put it in there, click on OK. And now what I could do is I can just drag the trigger up here to the webhook. And now you can see that it becomes a lightning bolt. And then I would want to connect that to this automation. But as you can see here, it wouldn't make sense here with the watch emails module, but it's important that you know of and are aware of what a webhook is and the part that they can play, a really important part that it can play in building effective automations. Lastly, this is where you can name your automations up here. Just make sure that you stick with a consistent naming convention so that it's easy for you to go and find later on, and it describes exactly what this automation is accomplishing. So as you can see here, Make.com is super powerful for the automations and workflows that you can build inside this tool. By the way, inside my school community called the AI Playbook Premium community, I build out all these different types of automations for our members, and I share them with all of them. So basically you can come in here and import the automations that I build for you right straight into your Make account so that you don't have to go and build these yourself. I've done it for you. I'll link to the school community below in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.